Hey there, Pro Church Media community, this is Jason again. In this super fun and quick tutorial, we're going to look at how to create these fun thermal type images in both Photoshop and After Effects, and of course, how to animate those in After Effects. It's going to be super fun, so let's get right to it. Okay, so we're going to start over in Photoshop, and so I'm going to hit Command-N on the keyboard to pull up a new document. I'm just going to make mine something like 1920 by 1080 and hit Create. And I already have an image that I want to put in there, so I'm just going to drag that in there. It's almost already got that kind of thermal type effect going on, so I think it'll work really nicely. So just kind of scale it in, fill the canvas. Okay, so we're going to add a gradient map to basically change up the colors. So let's go up to Layer, scroll down to New Adjustment Layer, choose Gradient Map. And you can give it a different name if you want to, just hit OK. And you might get something really bland like this, and so just click on the Gradient Color Wall. And then there's a bunch of presets you can choose from. You can start creating your own just by adding different stops in there and then changing the colors. I'm just going to start off with this preset, maybe right here. And I like most of the colors. I think I'm going to change this green to maybe a purple, and you can see how that's affecting everything. And I think I kind of like the rest of the colors as is. And so I'm just going to hit OK. And then I might try reversing it just by checking this reverse button, and I actually really kind of like that. And so I think I'm going to go with that look right there. Now the great thing about this, of course, it's still totally editable. I can go into my gradient map and change up these colors if I want to. But I can also make some other adjustments based on the luminance values. And so I'm going to create a new adjustment layer right above my image and below the gradient map. And so go up to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and choose Curves, and just hit OK. Now, since the gradient map is basically applying different color values based on the luminance values of the image, we can just use this curves adjustment to really change up how it's looking, and you can see just how it changes up by how you adjust different portions. Like if I'm messing around with the mid blacks right here, you can see what's happening there. If I adjust the mid highs, you can see what's happening there. You can get some fun duotones, you can get more thermal type images, and so you can really just dial in the look that you want. You can even use it based on different color channels if you want to really just nail the look that you want. And so you can quickly and easily create these really fun looks. You could stack more effects on top there if you want to, but I think I like this. Okay, so let's hop over to After Effects, and let's create a new composition, Command-N on the keyboard. I'm just going to call this Thermals, and 1920 by 1080. I think I'll make it about 15 seconds long, hit OK. Okay, so I'm going to drag in that same image. I might just scale it down to fill the canvas like that. And unfortunately, there's no gradient map inside of After Effects, at least not the same as in Photoshop. So we're going to use an effect called Colorama. So let's do Command-Alt-Y on the keyboard to pull up a new adjustment layer. I'm just going to call this Colorama. And then let's go up to Layer or Effect, scroll down to Color Correction, and then choose Colorama. This can be a little bit confusing if you're not used to it. You want to open up the output cycle, and you'll see this color wheel with all these different color stops on it. If you just imagine that there's a line going down the middle of this, and so the right to the right of that middle line is the left side of the gradient that was in Photoshop, and to the far left of that dividing line would be the right side of the gradient. So if you just kind of like peeled this out so it was flat, it would be basically the same type of gradient map. Anyway, you can basically do the same thing, change up these colors. I might change this back to more of that purple. You can even change up the opacity of the different color stops. You can add new ones in just by clicking there and choosing a new color. Might do something like that. That's kind of interesting. You can move these around however you want to, and so you can really get a nice interesting look with this. And so I think that's looking pretty cool. If you wanted to invert it, what you would do is go up to Effect, then go to Channel and choose Invert, and that's going to invert it. You can choose what channel the inversion is based on, so you can get some interesting looks going on here. I think I'll leave it in RGB. Actually, I think I'll just take the invert off, maybe just leave it there. Okay, so in a similar way, we're going to use a curves adjustment to modify this even more. So right above this, I'm going to do Command-Alt-Y, call this Curves, and let's go up to Effect, Color Correction, and then scroll down to Curves. And again, it's still using the luminance values to drive the color mapping. And so we can just, adjust this as we want to. And so we can get some really interesting effects just by slightly modifying these color curves, and so you can really dial in an interesting look pretty easily. I think I actually might go ahead and invert this. You can see it doesn't do it exactly the same as Photoshop does, and so it can be a little tricky to get it exactly as Photoshop had it. That's probably closer to what Photoshop had. But anyway. Okay, so the last thing to do is to animate this. Let's click on our Colorama, and we'll twirl down the input phase, and you'll see this phase shift right here. Just add a keyframe here at the very beginning of your timeline, then scrub all the way to the end, and we want to make this loop. So this number right here is number of degrees of rotation, and this right here is number of revolutions. And so we're just going to do 4 revolutions, and then open this up by hitting U to grab that keyframe. Just move it 1 past that final frame, just so it doesn't duplicate that final frame. And then we can play it back, and you can see we have our nice color shifting effect here with this thermal effect. And so yeah, it's pretty easy to create this type of animation inside of After Effects, and just to create this type of look in both Photoshop and After Effects. So have a lot of fun with it, see what you can come up with, and I will talk to you later.